High above Germany, autumn 1944. The sky trembles under the drone of Allied bombers, hundreds of them, B-17s holding tight formation at 25,000 feet. Their contrails cut white scars across the cold blue sky. Inside the bombers, gunners scan the horizon. They know the routine. Piston fighters. Messerschmitts. Focke-Wulfs. Then the radio crackles. Bandits, fast, too fast. A silver shape slices through the formation like a blade. No propeller blur. No engine roar they recognize. Just a violent shriek of turbines and a flash of swept wings. In seconds, a bomber erupts in flame. The gunners never had time to aim. It wasn't just another fighter. It was the world's first operational jet fighter, the Messerschmitt Me 262, a machine years ahead of its time. A weapon that could outrun anything in the sky. A technological leap so dramatic it shocked the Allies. And yet, it came too late. Tonight, we unravel the story of the jet Hitler unleashed in desperation, and how it nearly changed the course of the war. The Me 262's first appearances were almost ghost-like. Pilots reported it vanishing into the horizon in seconds, leaving only a shrill echo of turbine screams behind. Smoke from Allied bombers hung thick in the skies, trailing across fields and rivers like angry scars, while flak bursts sprayed sparks and shredded metal across the high-altitude corridors. The Luftwaffe controllers barked orders into crackling radios, their voices sharp with urgency, as they vectored jets toward the incoming bomber streams. Every second felt stretched, the distance between life and death measured in heartbeats and milliseconds. On the ground, German anti-aircraft crews peered into the sky, unsure whether to marvel or despair. The Me 262's engines produced a piercing howl unlike any propeller-driven plane. Mechanics whispered of engines so advanced they demanded reverence and fear alike. Throttle too aggressive and the turbine would explode, too timid and it would stall in midair. Each takeoff was a gamble, each mission a test of nerves and precision. Yet when it climbed into the clouds, it became a predator. Speed and altitude turned into deadly allies. Escorting fighters tried to intercept. They failed. Formation after formation was torn apart before human reaction could catch up. The aircraft's sleek fuselage glinted in the sun, the swept wings cutting the air like a scalpel. Its presence alone was enough to shake confidence. Bomber crews recounted the terror of seeing a shadow descending from above, guns blazing, faster than anything they had trained to confront. The Me 262 did not fight like a conventional aircraft. It struck, vanished, and returned. Its speed redefined the battlefield, forcing the Allies to rethink every tactic they had honed over years of relentless bombing campaigns. In late 1944, the Germans began deploying small, specialized squadrons, Jagdgeschwader 7 and later Kommando Nauetny, carefully selecting only the most experienced pilots. These aces became legends overnight. They understood the jet's strengths, exploiting the brief moments when it was most vulnerable. Their missions were short, brutal, and often decisive. Each sortie was a dance on the knife edge between technological supremacy and human limitation. But for all its sophistication, the Me 262 was a weapon born too late. Hitler's obsession with turning it into a bomber delayed its true potential. Factories lay in ruins under relentless Allied bombing. Fuel shortages kept engines cold, hangars empty, and pilots grounded. By the time it roared into the European skies in earnest, the war's tide had already turned. And yet, for those who witnessed it, for the men who faced it in the thin air above Germany, it was nothing short of awe-inspiring. A machine that seemed to defy the limits of physics, screaming across a world in flames. In the next moments, we follow its story, a tale of brilliance, desperation, and lost opportunity, as the Me 262 hunts the skies it was meant to dominate, and history moves inexorably toward its final, fateful chapters. Germany's desperate gamble. By 1943, the Luftwaffe was bleeding. The daylight bombing campaign led by the U.S. 8th Air Force was devastating German industry. Ball-bearing plants in Schweinfurt, aircraft factories in Regensburg, synthetic fuel facilities. Every month, Allied bombers grew stronger. Every month, Germany's defenses grew weaker. The Luftwaffe's once dominant fighters, the Bf-109 and Fw-190, were being pushed to their limits, escorting against longer-range Allied fighters like the P-51 Mustang. Germany needed a revolution. That revolution had been quietly developing since 1939, a twin-engine jet aircraft powered by turbojets rather than piston engines. The Me 262 was not just an upgrade. It was a generational leap. But internal politics delayed it. Adolf Hitler initially insisted it be modified into a blitz bomber, a fast attack bomber, instead of a pure interceptor. Valuable months were lost redesigning, re-arguing, re-engineering. By the time the Me-262 entered meaningful service in 1944, Germany was already on the defensive on every front. Still, when it finally flew into combat, the skies changed overnight. Technical advantages, a predator in the sky. The numbers were staggering. Top speed, 540 miles per hour, over 100 miles per hour faster than most Allied fighters. Operational ceiling, over 37,000 feet. Armament, 4 devastating 30 million Malawian Kwacha's 108 cannons, capable of shredding heavy bombers with just a few hits. Later variants carried R-4M rockets, unguided but lethal when fired into dense bomber formations. Acceleration was explosive. In a dive, it was untouchable. Allied pilots reported the same experience repeatedly. You never saw it coming. The jet engines, Junkers Jumo 004s, produced a high-pitched scream unlike any piston engine. But they were temperamental. Throttled too fast and they flamed out. Too slow and they stalled. The Me-262 was brilliant, but fragile. It required long, vulnerable runways. It burned scarce fuel. It demanded experienced pilots, and by 1944 Germany was running out of those too. Yet in the air, in the hands of aces, it was terrifying. Combat in the skies, a deadly interceptor. March 1945. Over the Rhine. A formation of B-17 flying fortresses pushes toward industrial targets. Escorting them are P-51 Mustangs weaving protective arcs. Suddenly, contrails appear low and fast. Me-262s from Jägerschwader 7, the first operational jet fighter wing, surge upward. They don't dogfight. They don't turn and circle. They attack in high-speed passes. One burst of 30 mm fire. A bomber wing shears off. Another explodes mid-air. American crews report feeling helpless. The closing speed is so high that by the time gunners adjust lead, the jet is already gone. Some Allied pilots attempt pursuit. It's futile. The Mustangs can't catch them in level flight. The only vulnerable moment? Takeoff and landing. So Allied strategy adapted. Fighter patrols began circling known jet bases, waiting for the Me-262s to return low on fuel. Strafing runs targeted runways. Bombers cratered airfields. It became a deadly cat-and-mouse game. Despite mechanical failures and fuel shortages, Me-262 units claimed over 500 Allied aircraft destroyed. But there were never enough of them. The enemy perspective, shock and fear. To Allied intelligence, the jet was deeply alarming. Reports flooded in. A new German fighter, extremely fast. Outclimbs everything. Unable to intercept. For months, speculation ran wild. Was this the beginning of a new wave of wonder weapons? Had Germany leapt years ahead? British and American engineers rushed development of their own jet programs, the Gloucester Meteor and the P-80 Shooting Star, but neither saw significant combat in Europe before war's end. Pilots feared the Me-262's speed. Commanders feared what it represented. If introduced in 1943 in large numbers, it could have devastated the bomber offensive. It could have forced strategic recalculations. It might have delayed Allied air superiority. But by late 1944, Allied production capacity dwarfed Germany's. For every jet produced, dozens of bombers rolled off American assembly lines. The Me-262 was a scalpel against the tidal wave. Strategic impact, too advanced, too late. Approximately 1,400 Me-262s were built. Fewer than 300 saw real combat readiness at any given time. Fuel shortages grounded many. Pilot shortages crippled others. Bombed factories slowed output. Hitler's strategic interference delayed deployment. Technologically, the Me-262 marked the dawn of the jet age. Strategically, it was a symptom of desperation. It demonstrated what Germany could achieve technologically, but also exposed the fatal weaknesses of its wartime leadership and collapsing infrastructure. The war would not be won by a single revolutionary weapon. And by spring 1945, Allied troops were crossing the Rhine while Soviet forces closed in on Berlin. The jet still flew, fast, deadly, defiant. But the Reich was falling beneath them. When the war ended, Allied forces found Me-262s scattered across shattered airfields. Some burned. Some abandoned. Some still gleaming in unfinished hangars. Engineers from America, Britain, and the Soviet Union studied them carefully. The future of aviation had arrived. The swept wings. The jet propulsion systems. The heavy nose-mounted cannon layout. Concepts refined in the Me-262 would echo through the next generation of fighters, from early Cold War interceptors to supersonic jets. But its battlefield story remains tragic. It was a machine designed for dominance, unleashed in decline. It proved that technology alone cannot reverse strategic collapse. It showed how innovation without coordination and timing becomes an echo rather than a turning point. For the bomber crews who faced it, the Me-262 was a nightmare. For aviation history, it was the beginning of a new era. A glimpse of the future, screaming across a dying sky. And in the end, the jet that could outrun everything could not outrun time. Even decades later, the Me-262 remains a symbol of what might have been, a glimpse of the future appearing too late to alter the past. Its swept wings and screaming turbines were not just engineering marvels. They were a statement of ambition, a final, desperate attempt by a collapsing regime to reclaim control of a sky it had once ruled. Aviation historians often marvel at its design, its audacity, and the courage of the pilots who dared to fly it into increasingly hopeless skies. Each mission was a tightrope walk between human skill and mechanical perfection, a battle not just against enemies but against the fragile limits of the aircraft itself. For the Allies, the Me-262 was terrifying, but it was also a harbinger. It forced a reckoning in tactics, in aircraft design, and in the philosophy of air warfare. The lessons learned from chasing, studying, and eventually surpassing it would echo into the Cold War and the jet age, shaping aircraft that could soar faster, strike farther, and defend more effectively than any piston-powered fighter of the past. Every jet that streaked across the skies in the 1950s, from the F-86 Sabre to the MiG-15, carried within it the DNA of that first combat-tested German jet. Yet the Me-262's story is bittersweet. Its potential was immense, its capabilities unmatched for its time, but war is never decided by machines alone. Resources, strategy, timing, and human resolve are just as decisive. The Me-262 came too late, in too few numbers, and under impossible circumstances. Its promise could not reverse the collapse of a nation, and its brilliance became a footnote in the story of a larger tragedy. And so it rests in history as both a warning and an inspiration, a machine born to dominate, yet constrained by human error and the relentless march of events beyond its control. For the men who flew it, the ground crews who tended it, and the enemies who feared it, the Me-262 left an indelible mark on the skies of World War II, a fleeting, terrifying glimpse of what the future of aviation would bring. In the end, the jet that could outrun every fighter, evade every bullet, and change the skies forever, could not outrun the currents of history. And its echo, a scream of turbines over burning cities, still resonates as a testament to human ingenuity, ambition, and the tragic timing that can turn genius into legend. Even now, the Me-262 stands as a testament to the paradox of human innovation, brilliance entwined with tragedy. It was a machine that could dominate the skies, yet its true potential was swallowed by circumstance, strategy, and war's relentless pace. For the pilots who climbed into its cockpit, each flight was a fleeting brush with immortality, and a reminder of the fragility of human ambition. Its echo shaped the dawn of the jet age, inspiring engineers, designers, and aviators for generations. The Me-262 may have arrived too late to win a war, but it arrived just in time to change the future of flight forever.